All right, let's dive right in. Today we are talking about the secret sauce, the invisible ingredients that literally power our modern world, rare earth elements. They're in your phone, they're in your car, and they are absolutely on the front lines of national defense. This, right here, is the story of a new global arms race, one that's fought with minerals, not missiles.
So, first up, let's just get a sense of how critical these materials really are. I mean, they're the unsung heroes behind pretty much every piece of tech we depend on, and they're going to define everything about our future.
To really wrap your head around the scale here, let me ask you a question. Picture a top-of-the-line F-35 stealth fighter, one of the most advanced military machines ever built. Now picture a cutting-edge Tesla, right? A symbol of the whole green energy revolution. What on earth could possibly connect these two things?
Well, the answer is rare earths, and their use is just unbelievably broad. We're talking about the super powerful magnets that make EV motors and wind turbines spin. We're talking about the sophisticated guidance systems in missiles, and even the tiny little speakers inside your smartphone. They are the absolute linchpin of modern tech, from defense to green energy to the gadgets in your pocket. Now, here's the thing. The name rare earths, it's actually kind of misleading. These 17 elements, they aren't all that rare to find in the ground. The rarity part, the real challenge, comes from the fact that it's just incredibly difficult and expensive to separate them into the super pure forms you need for all that cool stuff we just saw. That difficult middle step, that's the key to this whole story.
And that brings us right to the heart of the conflict. Because for decades, one country has strategically and very methodically built up its dominance over every single part of this industry, creating what you can only call a massive supply chain chokehold.
Let's just look at the numbers for a second. It all starts with mining the raw ore, right? Well, China currently pulls about 70% of all rare earths out of the ground. Now, that's a huge number, but honestly, it's actually the least of their advantages.
Okay, here it is. This is the real dominance. That super complex, super expensive, and frankly, super dirty work of separating and refining those elements, China controls the staggering 90% of the world's capacity to do that. This is the bottleneck. This is where they have a true chokehold on the entire planet's supply.
And that control just flows all the way down the line. By the time you get to the finished product, like the high-performance magnets that go into those jets and EVs, China is making more than 90% of them. They own the supply chain from the mine all the way to the magnet.
Now, this did not happen by accident, not even close. This was the result of a deliberate, decades-long state strategy. Beijing poured billions in subsidies into the industry, which let their companies undercut everybody else. For years, they just operated with very lax environmental rules that kept their costs way down. And then they consolidated the whole shebang into a giant state-owned company to control global prices.
And let's not forget the environmental cost here, a cost that Western countries just weren't willing to pay. This process is incredibly polluting. We're talking up to 2,000 tons of toxic waste for every single ton of usable rare earths. By basically ignoring this for decades, Chinese companies got a huge cost advantage that just drove everyone else out of business.
For years, this whole situation was kind of a theoretical risk, something people worried about on paper. But recently, Beijing has started to show that it's more than willing to turn this economic power into a geopolitical weapon.
In fact, one source described China's control here not just as a tool, but as a geopolitical assassin's mace. I mean, think about that imagery. A powerful, targeted weapon that you can swing whenever you want to disrupt the most advanced economies and militaries in the world.
And in October of 2023, that threat became very real. China announced a huge expansion of its export controls. First, they banned the export of the technology you need to process rare earths, a direct shot to stop other countries from even trying to build their own supply chains. Then they started requiring licenses for any product with even a tiny bit of Chinese rare earths. And they made it crystal clear they would deny those licenses for any foreign military use.
So, as you can imagine, that move sent absolute shockwaves through Washington and other Western capitals. It triggered an urgent and really dramatic response. What we're seeing now is nothing short of an industrial counterstrike.
I mean, what we are witnessing is a complete 180 on decades of U.S. policy. The old way? Let the market figure it out. That's what led to the industry moving to China in the 90s. The new way? Direct government intervention, using powerful tools like the Defense Production Act, with one clear goal: build a secure American mine-to-magnet supply chain from the ground up.
And look, this is not just talk. This new industrial policy has serious money behind it. The Department of Defense, on its own, has already poured in over $439 million since 2020. And that money is going right where it's needed most, funding the construction of domestic processing plants, the most critical link in the chain.
The absolute cornerstone of this strategy is a huge partnership with MP Materials, which is America's only active rare earth miner. The government is taking a massive stake in the company, they're guaranteeing prices for 10 years to stop China from crashing the market, they're promising to buy 100% of their magnets, and they're giving them loans. This is a clear signal that the US government is completely all in.
And the strategy doesn't stop at the border. Washington knows it can't do this alone. It's also funding key allies, like dropping nearly $260 million to help the Australian company Lynas, the world's biggest non-Chinese producer, build a brand new processing facility right in Texas.
So all of this marks the beginning of a brand new and pretty uncertain era. The US and its allies have drawn a line in the sand. They're going to break China's chokehold, but the road ahead is going to be incredibly tough.
And let's be real, there are some major headwinds here. For one, US costs are just way higher. China still holds key patents and a lot of the technical know-how. And strict environmental laws here mean just getting a permit for a new facility can take a decade. Even with the government's full backing, building a truly competitive alternative is probably going to take 5 to 10 years easy.
So this really isn't about supply and demand for a commodity anymore. The game has changed. This is now a direct bet on a massive geopolitical trend. The idea of supply chain resilience, of putting national security ahead of pure market efficiency. It's a huge global shift away from just-in-time to just-in-case.
And the stakes just keep getting higher, because while this whole geopolitical battle is raging, the actual demand for these materials is just exploding. I mean, the market is projected to more than double in size this decade, all thanks to the unstoppable shift towards electrification and more advanced tech.
Which leaves us with one final really critical question. The West is now spending billions to rebuild an industry it basically gave away for free. It's a massive, costly, and uncertain gamble. But in a world where your most essential supply chains can be turned into weapons overnight, what is the true price of security?